All right, morning, everybody. Happy race day. Let's talk about the Xfinity series at Michigan. So today's race, we got 125 laps, so not a ton of laps for Dominator points, but still, a decent amount that we should probably consider it. It's a big 2-mile oval track, so pretty high speeds. And as far as lineup construction goes, I mess around with lines a little bit. Most of the lines that I have so far are kind of a combination of, jamming in some really expensive, star type of plays, then going all the way to the bottom of the slate, getting some, scrub plays, punt plays that start deep in the field that hopefully can work their way through attrition, and then just kind of rounding out your lineup between maybe a 6K and a 7K driver. But let's talk about it. So in the top range, you got Gibbs, Nemechek, Allgaier, Berry, Custer, and Chastain. I'll say the top of the slate for me is definitely my core, my main focus. I probably want two out of these three drivers and basically all my lines. That's just the way that I'm building today. Um, Really like Gibbs. Gibbs gives you some place differential upside. He was also fastest in a lot of the different lap averages that we saw. So he looks like he has a pretty good car on the long run. John Hunter Nemechek didn't run as many laps in practice, which is a little bit of a concern. But if you look at his driver rating on these kind of intermediate tracks, I mean, he is, if not the best, he's up there. And he also gives you some place differential upside. So I could see you playing both of them. I could see you maybe only playing one of them. And then I like pairing either of these drivers with an Allgaier and or a Berry. I like Allgaier a little bit more than Berry, just based off of driver experience, based off of practice times, based off of driver, kind of driver rating at similar tracks. But I think Allgaier or Berry are most likely going to lead the early part of this race. Excuse me. And then I can see Gibbs and Nemechek kind of coming forward as the race plays out. So for me, I want some combination. Like I said, I'm leaning more on Gibbs, Nemechek, and Allgaier with my lines. I like Berry a lot as well, too. Cole Custer, dropping my ownership on him a little bit. They did confiscate his splitter, his front wing, when they were going over tech. So because of that, he does have to start from the rear. He is scored from the 13th position, but honestly, it's really not going to impact him that much, I don't believe. And I think he'll be there at the end of the race. He's just probably not going to give you any dominator, upside until potentially like, stage 2, stage 3. So just kind of keep that in mind. Ross Chastain, not really getting to Chastain too much today. I just like the drivers above him a little bit more. His 10, Collie car has been fast, but it hasn't really been able to compete with, the JGR and the JRM cars. So I don't mind him if you're trying to get different. But again, for me, I want to jam in as many, Gibbs, Nemechek, Allgaier, and I'll throw Berry into that situation too, and then really try to, punt to the bottom of the slate. Some other plays I think you can get to if maybe you only play two of these drivers is maybe an Austin Hill, a Sammy Smith. Austin Hill starts third. He has a great chance of getting out front, leading some laps, picking up some fast laps. He's also pretty much proven that, he's going to be there. He's going to contend. He's been winning a ton of races, having a great year. So $9,800 for Austin Hill seems like a really great play. So I'm probably going to build another line and make sure I get Austin Hill in one of those lines. Chandler Smith starts sixth. He's had pretty good finishes on the intermediate tracks. It's just for me, starting sixth, I have a hard time envisioning him outpacing and outrunning some of the other drivers we've talked about. Sammy Smith, though, the JGR car starting ninth, gives you a pretty nice discount off the Gibbs and the Nemechek play. So maybe you only play one of them, and maybe you punt down and get to Sammy Smith, and it's not really a punt, but gives you some price savings, allows you to come up a little bit higher on the bottom side of your lineups there. Not really getting a mare, just starts fourth, and again, I have a hard time envisioning him being able to pass some of the cars that we already talked about. Brandon Jones has just been absolutely awful in this JRM car. Sheldon Creed starts 15th. He's kind of you never really know what you're going to get with Sheldon Creed. Sometimes he has really good, results and finishes. Other times the finishes and the results aren't there. So it can be kind of frustrating sometimes to play Sheldon Creed, but a pretty nice price there. Carson Hocevar is an Aspire, basically JRM car. I don't mind him for tournament plays. He starts a little bit closer than I would like to see. But again, he had some pretty good speed in practice and qualifying. So the car is going to be fast. I don't know if he can really finish much higher than fifth, but we'll see. Riley Herbst is basically the same play. I'd rather probably play Hocevar if I can, just for those extra 2 spots, but I don't mind either of them for tournament plays. Not really getting to Hemmer, Kligerman. Sieg really didn't show that much in practice. I think he's going to draw a lot of ownership today, but I'm not really too interested there. Moffitt was someone that really surprised me with his speeds in practice qualifying. If he's able to have a clean race, I think he's someone that has top 10 upside. So he's kind of like a sneaky, tournament play. I don't think he's going to get a lot of ownership. So if you're trying to get risky, find a good leverage play. A lot of risk there with Moffitt, but I don't mind him. Kaz Gralla is decent play, starts 25th, kind of qualified around where his practice times were. Same with Jeb Burton, had decent times, but these are, depending on how you're building, these are going to be some of the plays you're going to be landing on. So, getting to Gralla, getting to Burton, not really getting to Clements too much today, getting to Retzlaff, getting to Weatherman. Like these are, when you build out your line, this might be the final range that you're picking from. So I have ownership to basically everyone in here except for Clements. His practice times were just really slow, which is concerning to me, and his qualifying time wasn't great. I really like Parker Retzlaff, though. I don't know how much ownership he'll get. I feel like a lot of people probably play some drivers above him that we just talked about, but he had top 15 speeds in practice. And I think, if he can have a clean race, I think it's very easy for him to finish inside the top 15 as well. Like Kyle Weatherman a lot too. He's always good behind the wheel. Not in the best equipment. Starts 20th, which is a little high, but I still think he can finish inside the top 20. And then from there, not really getting the most of the 6K range. I just think, if you can, I think the 7K and the top of the 6K range gives you a lot more value, or just punting down even further. So Earnhardt starts deep. He starts 34th. As long as he stays on the track, most likely he's going to pay off his price tag. Josh Williams probably has a lot better finishing potential than a lot of these other punt plays do. He just starts a little bit further forward. So sacrifice a little bit of place differential, upside potentially. But in the same sense, he can also probably drive a little bit further, in the field. Maybe he can get a top 20 finish where, Jeffrey Earnhardt getting a top 20, not necessarily as likely. Brendan Poole's going to be my favorite punt play just because of where he starts. He's 21st in single, lap speed. So that's encouraging to see. Veteran driver, he should be able to just really keep that car on track. If we see some wrecks, he's going to be able to advance his position. So I have a lot of Poole today. He's probably my favorite punt play. And then I'm usually getting 2 of these drivers down here. So I have a lot of Poole, and then I have a lot of, Joe Graff Jr., I have a lot of Ryan Ellis. I have a lot of Earnhardt, a lot of Williams. So for me, I'm really leaning on Poole and then just trying to sprinkle in some of these other plays down here. Like Joe Graff is similar to Josh Williams, probably, not as much place differential upside, but decent equipment could probably get you maybe a top 20 finish. Ryan Ellis is pretty much the same exact play as Jeffrey Earnhardt. He's just cheaper, and he starts 1 spot further back. So Ellis and Earnhardt are probably your safest just because of where they start. So I like Poole, pairing it with Earnhardt and Ellis if you're trying to get maybe a little bit more risky, maybe a Williams or Joe Graff there. I don't even mind Perkins starting, DFL. But from there, I'm not really getting to too many other players. I'm not really getting to Patrick Emling. Garrett Smithley had decent times, but starting 26 is a little tough for me for a punt play. And these other drivers were just too slow or start a little bit too far forward. So it's really good to do it. I'm not really trying to overthink it too much. I'm not really trying to get, too pretty or too, different. For me, it's a lot of Gibbs, a lot of Nemechek, a lot of Allgaier, a lot of Poole, a lot of Earnhardt, a lot of Ellis, and then kind of this 6K range. So, Moffitt to Weatherman, trying to just find your favorite plays in there. That's how most of my lines are constructed today. I realize I need to get a little bit more Austin Hill And probably a little bit more Sammy Smith in my lines too. So when I'm done recording this, I'll probably sprinkle in maybe an Austin Hill line and a Sammy Smith line as well. But hopefully that was helpful. If it was, dropping a like is always appreciated. If you're new or watch these videos frequently and you haven't subscribed, hitting the button, helps us out a lot. We're slowly but surely creeping up to 1,000 number. I think we're at like 750 right now. So it's pretty cool to see. But yeah, that'll do it for the Xfinity series, and I'll catch you guys on the Cup one.